Hello and welcome to another year of Vlogtober. It's been a bit of a slow start so far this morning. I've managed to put up a few of the autumn decorations, although I have a big box full still beside me to find homes for. And yeah, so now I'm doing my morning knitting. I like to do a little bit first thing in the morning. Most mornings I've been working on this pair of socks, which the light in here is not great. Let me try and turn you slightly. There we go, that's a bit better. These are the A Little Hocus Pocus socks by This Handmade Life. And now that I am working on my second sock, I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere and I can look forward to my next cast on. I mean, I have a few things cast on already. I have quite a few things on the needles, but kind of for my morning knitting, I'm thinking of a pair of vanilla socks after these ones, because I do have my stripy Halloween socks that I'm working on too, but they're vanilla socks, but they have a little bit more work to them because I have to do slip stitches. Because they're merino socks, I have to do slip stitches on the ball of the foot. But I'm going to do a pair of vanilla socks in a commercial sock yarn, this opal sock yarn, and I won't have to do any of the slip stitches, and I will be able to knit it on a 2.25 instead of a 2mm needle like my merino ones have to. And I'm thinking a bright orange contrast toes and heels for this one. I have two potentials. I have some more opal yarn in a bright orange, but it's quite I wouldn't say it's bordering on neon, but it's certainly on the slightly cooler side of orange. It's a bright orange, but it's a slightly cooler one. And the orange that's in this, it's kind of mixed. I mean, there is some more reddish orange in this, but most of it is very much a neutral orange. I also have a orange yarn in, I think it's Cascade 220. Well, it's one of the Cascade ones, the Cascade sock yarn, but again, it's merino one, so I'm not sure about using that one. I think I'll just see how I feel when I get them out and see how they look alongside this yarn. For today, I have some outside bits I need to do today. It's supposed to be decent weather for a few days, so I have some chores. I know I need, actually there's quite a few, so it's hard to decide what to do first, and what to do on which days. I have blackberries to pick, I have apples on the apple trees to check over and constantly picking those as they are ready. I also have the greenhouse that needs, what is dying back needs clearing out. I also need to pick tomatoes and just a lot of little bitty bits that need doing before the autumn really sets in hard. We have quite a short growing season here, so we have a limited time before really you can't really do anything outside anymore. Well, you could, but there'll be nothing left to do outside. You'd be raking up soggy grass and things like that. So yeah, some outside bits, and I need to wash the apples that blew off the tree a few days ago. They all need to be washed, just rinsed off, just to get rid of any soil and what have you. And yeah, just bits and pieces. I'm not sure if I'll be doing any autumn baking today. Probably not, because I actually made brownies a couple of days ago and there's still several left. But there is an apple pie in our future, I have to say, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I better get this pattern repeat finished for today and decide whether I'm going outside things first or autumn decory things first. John's been pulling the onions this morning. We've grown not a huge amount this year. I mean, that looks a lot there, but there's for the amount of onions that I use cooking, it's not a year's supply. We grew all these from seed this year, which we've done a couple of times now, and we found that in some ways the seed actually grows better for onions for us than growing from sets. And I watched a really interesting video on growing onions by a homesteader, and I will try and remember to link the video below, where she talked about onions grown from onions. When you want to grow onions for seed, you want second year onions because they put out seed, and sets are in effect second year onions, so you actually get a better crop, a bigger yield from onions from seed. And I mean, this is our biggest onion this year, and it's huge. It is very, very big. I think that's about the biggest onion we've ever grown. But even kind of average size in them, they are a really good size. So I'm going to let these dry out for a few days out here whilst the weather's going to be good, and then we'll sort out storing them a little bit more long term. But to be honest, this amount of onions, some of them probably will make onion marmalade, and they'll get used up quite quickly. But now I'm going to go pick some bits in the greenhouse. We currently have our garlic in here, but now it's getting too damp. These are going to have to go in the house. It's been a mixed batch this year. We've had a really not great summer in Orkney. I don't know, there's just been a lot of splitting and they just didn't grow as big as they would normally. But we have lots of garlic for the coming year. We haven't got much growing in here at the moment. We have some flowers, just brought the geraniums in to overwinter them. And we have mostly tomatoes, but even they haven't done very well this year. We struggle a bit with tomatoes anyway because of our short summer, but I mean, these are really, really green. These are only just starting to go ripe, this variety. I think this is Dr. Carolyn, and I was just using the seed that I had left over. We have some galenas, but aphids are really going crazy for the galenas, and we weren't actually planning on growing these. These were a couple of stray seeds that got through. Galenas are one of my favourite cherry tomatoes, but this year we were planning on growing something else. And these are supposed to be Ailsa Craig tomatoes, and these, either the seed we bought was wrong or they got really, really stunted, because we had a lovely May and then June rained all of June, and these just basically stopped growing. So we have very tasty cherry tomatoes that are either very tiny Ailsa Craig tomatoes or some mystery cherry tomato that I haven't got a clue. But I'm going to pick these. And I've got some purple beans as well that want picking, the last of these. But again, the aphids really are going crazy on these beans, and they haven't done very well. We've only had a couple of dinners from them. Our squash were put in so late that we're going to get no fruit from them at all. Next year I'm just going to grow one variety and start them really early. I'm thinking candy roasters, because they seem to do well normally. And our runner beans, we've had the grand total of 2 beans all year. That's it. So they were a complete flop. We also have our cucumbers need ripping out now. These plants, well, they were spent quite a while ago, but I just haven't pulled them out yet. But we did really well for cucumbers. They were just a variety that I bought from a local shop that somebody else had grown them from seed. I think they were called Emily or Amelia long, but they did really well. The wax beans need pulling out. The courgettes, again, put in so late that they're only just putting out little fruits now. So I don't think we'll be getting anything off of those. But this lupin that got brought in here is doing really, really well. Also, our aloe vera plant had babies. So John brought them in and potted them all up, and now we have 1 million aloe vera babies. So I think some of those will be going to the charity shop. And I have a nectarine tree that I grew from a nectarine pit. But I need to put it into a big pot because it's looking a little forlorn in there. But first, tomatoes. We'll see how many of these actually reach the kitchen. A decent amount of tomatoes and even a decent handful of French beans that we can have with our leftover lasagna for tea tonight. I would say that's not too bad for end of season haul. I'm looking forward to more tomatoes though, and maybe even some fried green tomatoes next week as well. Just getting dinner prepped up for later on. I'm doing the beans for tea and a ton of broccoli. I wouldn't normally make this much broccoli, but it was looking a bit ropey, so I'm just going to roast it all up at once with just some olive oil and salt and pepper. And what we're having with it is leftover lasagna. So it's looking a bit dry. This is from yesterday, but that's because it's been left in the oven overnight. It's gone a bit dry, so I'm just going to put a little tiny trickle of water on this and cover it up. Put it back in the oven while I roast the vegetables, heat it through, and it'll kind of steam in the little trickle of water, and it'll be fine. It'll taste really delicious and it won't be dry at all because of the water. The lasagna recipe is this one. It's kale and mushroom lasagna. I've made this a couple of times now, and yes, I do write in my recipe books. It is from the River Cottage Veg Everyday Book 1. Whoops. And yeah, it's really, really nice, and it's quite light too. There are currently 2 great big ravens at the end of our drive. They're huge. Our post box, you can just kind of see, and it gives you some idea of the proportion of just how big they are. I've decided to do some work on my stripy Halloween socks this afternoon. I have knit most of one, but I'm worried about running out of yarn. I should have enough, but I'm not sure how much more I have before I have to start the cuff. So I'm going to do the second sock, knit to the same point, then I'll split the yarn, because I want the colourways to end the same as well. I don't want to have, I won't be splitting the yarn evenly, I'll be splitting the yarn where the pattern repeats are kind of even instead. I would rather the ankle was shorter and did a longer cuff than have them be like the same all the way up and then completely different just at the ankle. So I've got the toe done, and I've just started the body of the sock, and I'm doing slip stitches and short rows just after the toe. You can kind of see that a bit better on the first sock. So I've done slip stitches on the ball of the foot, and I did short rows after the toe and short rows before, well, after I finished doing the slip stitches before going back to stocking it. And I also did slip stitches and short rows before the heel as well, just here, just to have some extra reinforcement. So I'm going to do some on this before I pop the dinner on. Everything is prepped, I just need to switch the oven on, which is how I like it, because once I get to a certain point in the evening, I don't fancy cooking at that point. So if it's prepped in advance, that is advantageous. So I'm going to do a bit on this and maybe watch a podcast, or even maybe I'll finally get around to watching the first episode of the Anne of Green Gables series. I have yet to watch that. I keep meaning to and never seem to get around to it. So I'll pop TV on and see what takes my fancy.